So as I'm sure you guys are aware by now, there's been a lot of discussion recently about Henry Cavill, his future with the DC Extended Universe, and Michael B. Jordan for some reason. All of this is thanks to a few different articles that dropped just the other day, claiming that the relationship between Henry Cavill and Warner Brothers is falling out, and because of that, the studio wants to give Cavill the Ben Affleck treatment and swap him out with another actor. First, we got this gem from The Hollywood Reporter, featuring claims from a number of anonymous sources that Henry Cavill is leaving the DCEU for a few different reasons, including how Warner Brothers supposedly won't be making a Man of Steel sequel for another few years, and that the studio allegedly wants to start shifting the focus over to making a series of Supergirl movies instead. Now, of course, we can't actually verify any of this information because, like I said earlier, all of this stuff is coming to The Hollywood Reporter from anonymous sources, who of course are always the most reliable sources of information nowadays.
Our source close to production that gave us our Iron Fist Netflix character breakdown story and our Vision story from Civil War and Age of Ultron had this for us. Captain America Civil War will end with the funeral scene of Captain America himself, Steve Rogers.
I'll be there.
Of course, that didn't stop other groups from running their own articles about this whole thing, which brings us to Deadline. After the article from THR, Deadline ran their own piece, which pretty much restated everything the first article said, but they also threw in a quick mention that Warner Brothers is supposedly tossing around the possibility of replacing Henry Cavill with Michael B. Jordan in future Superman movies.
What?
Yeah, there's a lot to go over here. Now, obviously the whole thing with Michael B. Jordan is completely fake, right? We can all agree on that. I mean, he's a good actor and all, don't get me wrong, but there's no mention of where Deadline even got this information in the first place, so that's a huge red flag. Plus, the statements we got from both Cavill's management team and the Warner Brothers spokesman, more on this later, both kind of seem like Henry Cavill will continue to be Superman in the DCEU, so that's another red flag. Now, I'll admit, there is always the possibility that Warner Brothers either just isn't interested or isn't able to turn out a story for a solo Superman movie that they actually like, so they could just decide to take things in a different direction. It'd be easy enough to do in a future movie, like maybe they could introduce a totally different version of Superman from a different universe, like maybe have the Michael B. Jordan Superman show up and take over for Henry Cavill after some big thing or whatever. But like I said earlier, we haven't actually gotten any kind of confirmation that this rumor has any ounce of truth behind it, and seeing as the DCEU hasn't really introduced anything they could use to explain away a brand new Superman, I don't really see this one happening anytime soon. Now, as far as whether or not Cavill's actually leaving the DCEU at all, we did get a few different quotes that are confusing a lot of people for some reason. Cavill's manager took to Twitter soon after The Hollywood Reporter published their article, and she stated, "Be peaceful. The cape is still in his closet. Warner Brothers has been and continues to be our partners as they evolve the DC universe." Speaking of, we also got a statement from a spokesman for Warner Brothers, who stated, "While no decisions have been made regarding any upcoming Superman films, we've always had great respect for and a great relationship with Henry Cavill, and that remains unchanged." That's it? What's the problem again? Seriously, I don't know about you guys, but that to me sounds like the version of Superman we've been seeing since 2013's Man of Steel will keep existing in the DCEU. And I get that the whole no decisions about upcoming Superman films thing could come across as a little concerning, but like I said earlier, it could just be that the studio is having a hard time coming up with a Superman story that everybody likes. It wasn't all that long ago that we were hearing about how Man of Steel 2 was in the planning stages.
I've heard that DC is hard at work developing a Superman sequel, and I'm curious where it's at.
I'm having a lot of conversations behind the scenes with certain people, and we will hopefully be having conversations with other people who are also behind the scenes to make things start happening.
It makes sense that the studio would want to shelve the property till they figured out what they're going to do with it, especially if Cavill decides he wants to start exploring other projects in the meantime. And on top of that, this doesn't even mean that we'll never see Clark Kent in the DCEU ever again. Who knows, maybe Warner Brothers will actually be able to work around Henry Cavill's schedule at some point, and they'll finally start bringing Superman into different movies. You know, do that whole Kryptonian Nick Fury thing they've been planning on for a while. As far as the Supergirl thing goes, that seems to me like Warner Brothers is trying to play things safe, like they want to keep doing something with the Kryptonian side of the DCEU, but they're probably thinking they can get away with something that more people are going to like by starting with a clean slate with Supergirl, rather than taking a risk and alienating more people by sticking with the Superman they've been going with for a few years now. I guess I could see the logic behind this, especially considering how more people have been demanding more movies based on female superheroes in recent years, but at the same time, this doesn't necessarily mean that Henry Cavill is leaving comic book movies anytime soon. If anything, you could argue that a decent Supergirl movie could drive up demand for Man of Steel 2, making it more profitable for Warner Brothers to get back to that franchise after it takes a break for a few years. I could keep going on and on about this, but as far as I'm concerned, based on everything we've been seeing and hearing so far, all the Cavill Superman fans out there have absolutely nothing to worry about. Dude's not going anywhere. Oh look, Henry Cavill uploaded a response video on his Instagram. Wonder what he's got to say about all this. I'm sure it'll clear everything right up. But anyways guys, that's my take on what's going on with Henry Cavill's future as Superman in the DCEU. If you guys agreed with anything I said in this video, or if you have your own thoughts you want to throw out there, then go ahead and let me know in the comments down below. Otherwise, I will see you all next time. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like this video, then go ahead and click that like button, and if you're new, maybe consider clicking that subscribe button too. I've also got links to my Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, and Patreon in the description. You should probably check those out too. And if you want to see more of my content, then you can click the link to my last video. It's right there in the middle of your screen. Alright, and I will see you all next time.